Etymologists of Reddit, what is the coolest origin of a word? Etymology, dashboard. The dashboard is a board on the front of a horse carriage meant to keep mud from kicking up on the passengers when the horse dashes. And over time it came to mean the front part of anything. Even a computer interface is sometimes called a dashboard. Ampersand, and, used to be a letter in the English alphabet. It came after Z in the N alphabet. In the alphabet song, after you finished with Z, kids would sing, and Paresi, and which is where the name ampersand comes from. And Paresi and basically means also, and as itself. The word barbarian comes from an ancient Greek word referring to all non-Greek speakers, including Egyptians, Phoenicians, etc. This was because to the Greeks, all other languages sounded like people saying bar bar bar. This became the root for the word, barbarous, which roughly means babble or gibberish. It was later adopted by the Romans to refer to any culture that did not practice Greek or Roman traditions, even though Latin speakers were technically classified as barbarians because they didn't speak Greek. Due to good old xenophobia, it eventually came to mean uncivilized, and from there it made its way through the centuries into Middle English. Pumpernickel comes from the German words pumpern, to break wind, and nickel, goblin, apparently due to its indigestibility. Their bread is so coarse it would make the devil break wind. So the literal translation of pumpernickel is fart goblin. Incidentally, I encourage one of you to make a band called Fart Goblin. The word bear in many languages in Europe, including English, just means brown thing. There used to be a proper name for bear, but it was taboo, because saying it was believed to summon a bear, who would then kill everyone. It was so taboo it was eventually forgotten, and the euphemism, brown thing, became the name. Ancient people were scared priceless by bears. Edit, the Arctic draws its root from Arctus, Greek for bear. So it's the land of bears. The Antarctic is thus the land without bears in Eastern Slavic languages. They were so scared that even the brown thing became taboo. The world is still used as a part of bear's lair name, but the animal itself is named as the one who knows where is honey. What? That's crazy. I never realized that the word medv has two parts, med honey vet. No thank you for this random fact. Damn, so that's why in Hungarian a bear is called medv. I always learn something new. I'm fucking learning things today. Roger is just the modern English equivalent of the Old English and Old Norse name Hrothgar. Edit. Additionally, Hrothgar means famous spear, and is the name of the Danish king in the medieval epic poem Beowulf. So in Skyrim, Hi Hrothgar is just Hi Roger, and James Bond was played by Hrothgar Moore. 0. The word quintessential has one of my favorite etymologies. You can break it down into quint and essential. Quint as in 5, essential as in essence, or element. To be quintessential is to be the fifth element of something. To be the thing's spirit. So The Fifth Element is a quintessential movie, no matter what anybody says. I will fight them if they tell you those lies. What were the first four elements? Fire, ice, slime, and candy. The etymology of tawdry is a real ride. There was a 7th century Anglo-Saxon saint named Thelthryth. Now, nobody, not even 7th century Anglo-Saxons, wants to go around trying to pronounce that dense forest of th's, so she was commonly known as Street, Etheldreda, and later, linguistically lazier people called her Street, Audrey, Street. Audrey was a patron saint of a town called Ely, and the folks of Ely held a fair every year in her name. One of the primary products on offer at these fairs was lace. Street. Audrey's lace was said a few too many times, and got slurred down to tawdry lace. Over time, the lace fell out of favor. It was mainly made by peasant women, and thus viewed as cheap, and the Puritans looked down on lace garments of any kind as ostentatious. Tawdry then began to be used to describe other things that were cheap and ostentatious, and the modern definition of the word was born. Etymology, nightmare. The mare part of the word nightmare comes from Germanic folklore, in which a mare is an evil female spirit or goblin that sits upon a sleeper's chest, suffocating them and or giving them bad dreams. So basically the word comes from a description of sleep paralysis. The word apron was originally napron, but when people said an apron it got gradually transformed into an apron. Etymology. Nimrod was originally a compliment referring to one's hunting skills, Nimrod being a biblical figure known for his ability to hunt, but the definition changed because people didn't understand Bugs Bunny was calling Elmer Fudd a Nimrod sarcastically. Etymology. Cliché is derived from the sound of dapping ink on typeface. Anyone who has used an ink roller will understand the sound of sticky ink, so it's the repeated sound of regularly and therefore overused piece of type. Etymology. Calcium, calculator, calculate, calculus, abacus all share an origin in the word calx, Latin for stone. Renal calculus equals kidney stone. Yep. Sounds like calculus. Is that because it's hard to pass? Malaria. Malaria is an infectious disease characterized by chills and fever and caused by the bite of an infected Anopheles mosquito. This word comes from the medieval Italian mal, bat, and aria, air, describing the miasma from the swamps around Rome. This bad air was believed to be the cause of the fever that often developed in those who spent time around the swamps. In fact, the illness, now known as malaria, was due to certain protozoans present in the mosquitoes that bred around these swamps, and which caused recurring feverish symptoms in those they bit. In Greek mythology, Hades had a giant three-headed dog named Cerberus that guarded the entrance to the land of the dead. Cerberus comes from an older Sanskrit word, caribus, meaning spotted. So Hades, a literal Greek god, has a hellhound named Spot. Wow, good timing. I just learned this one today. Etymology of the word clue. The word clue originates with the myth of Theseus, who used a ball of yarn to find his way back out of the Minotaur's labyrinth. The Middle English word for a ball of yarn was clue, or clue. When the myth was popularized in England by Chaucer, people started using the word clue figuratively to mean a hint or guide to solving a problem. Edit. Holy forking shirt balls. This blew up. I have so many internet points now. Obligatory thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Interesting. The word for clue in Swedish is ledtråd, which is translated to lead thread or path thread, so it's probably related to the same myth. In Turkish the word is ipuku, which is translated to tip of the rope. Never thought about it before I saw your comments. In Estonia it's chadlang, so pretty much lead of yarn. Etymology. The word helicopter is a compound word derived from helico meaning roughly spiral thing into meaning roughly flying thing, as in pterodactyl. The compound word is helicopter, not helicopter like everyone thinks. English used to have a letter called thorn which kind of looked like the letter Y. It made a buzzing th sound like in the. It's why you see signs like ye old shop. It's pronounced the old shop, not ye old shop. While making stone sculptures, it was highly likely that the carver will make a mistake which cannot be undone, especially if he was not very skilled. To hide their mistakes, they used to apply wax and shape it accordingly. The sculpture with wax was seen as impure and with flaws representing dishonesty of the carver. The Spanish for wax is cera, hence the sculptures without wax were called sincera in Spanish. From there came the word sincere, that is without any flaw or pure, as archaic meaning and now meaning honest. The word "vaccine" comes from the Latin word "vaccinus", which means of the cow. This is because the guy that first popularized the treatment and term prevented smallpox in children by exposing them to material from a cowpox blister, a milder form of smallpox. Adder is a type of snake, notable for the way it slithers and its distinctive markings. In Old English, 700 AD, around the time of Beowulf, the word for snakes in general was neder. Early Middle English being the English that the Canterbury Tales was written in, not the one Shakespeare used, kept this word, changing the spelling to nadder. Not really changing the spelling. Spelling wasn't really a thing that was set in stone then. If you saw a snake, you'd say I saw an adder. Later down the line, some idiots started writing I saw an adder. The Egyptians had a really big temple in Memphis, which they called Choid Kerpatach. When Egypt got big, the Akkadians assumed the word was the name of the country, but they gave up on trying to say it, so they just called the country Kukuuktak. When the ancient Greeks started learning about Egypt, they found the Akkadian word. They also gave up on trying to say the name, so they started calling the country Akupitio. A few centuries later the Greeks decided again that this was too hard to pronounce, so they changed it to Aegyptus. A few hundred years later the Romans decided Aegyptus was too hard to pronounce, so they started calling the country Gyptus. This continued for centuries, until the French decided it too was too complicated, and just called the place Egypt, which the English then borrowed without the second E to form Egypt. So basically Egypt came from Egypt, which came from Gyptus, which came from Aegyptus, which came from Akuptio, which came from Kakuuptak, which came from Choikirpatach, which was never the name of the country in the first place. So do we know what the name of the country actually was? Yeah, the Egyptians actually called the land and themselves Qumut, which means the black. I remember reading it was because they saw the Nile actually had dirt around it, because the land was fertile, and basically said WTF, this isn't sand. Etymology. Why do we raise chickens? Animal, to eat chicken, meat, but raise cows, animal, to eat beef, meat. Because in England, French used to be the preferred language of the court, whereas Welsh was commonly used by the, well, commoners. The Saxon word for cow, cwe, was pronounced coo, and the French word for the meat from said animal was boeuf, pronounced buff. Poor people raised coos so rich people could eat buff. Chickens weren't widely eaten by the upper classes until much later. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that bell to turn on notifications, so you'll be sure to know when the next video comes out. Want to watch some more? Check out my other videos. I really do appreciate everyone who helps make these videos possible. And as always, thanks for watching.